China will remain the most important strategic challenge for India. I don't think it is going to go away. But I think what has happened in some ways is that China also is facing negative headwinds, right? From the markets are closing in the Western world. China's domestic demand is also going down. So there is a challenge for China. It needs new markets. It needs new economic partners. And what better partner it can get than India, which is the third largest economy at this point, growing increasingly very important global economic actor. I think a few years back, a decade back, it would not have been possible, or in China would not have envisioned that. But China sees, I think, in this downturn with the US, that India is facing an opportunity, and therefore that opportunity, and it is capturing that opportunity. The question is, are we alert to the possibility that this may not last very long? And therefore, are we building our capacities in the during the time that we have, so that if another problem comes from China, we are able to take it head on? Because you cannot be lulled into thinking that, look, China is going to be our friends for life. We are going to be best friends forever. That's not going to happen. With China, there are fundamental differences. And we saw that even during Sindoor, the way coordination between Chinese military and Pakistani military was happening. That is quite, and I don't think that element is going to go away. So we have to be prepared for it, but also at the same time nurture the economic aspects of the relationship, because it allows you to build your own capacities. At the end of the day, India wants to build its own economic strength. India wants to build its own domestic manufacturing. And if China can help in the process, then why not take that help? And Prime Minister Modi went to China. He went via Japan. And that meant that India and Japan coming together or working together much more closely is the only alternative. Countries that are like-minded will have to do much more together. We'll have to do much more on economic matters, on strategic matters. And you saw the unveiling of economic security initiative between India and Japan, because that has become imperative. That, obviously we were discussing China. China is today a partner, tomorrow it may not be. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to buffer against those kind of eventualities and insulate from those kind of shifts and turns that might come. And that is basically what we are left with.
Right. It's the same China which had the string of pearls strategy vis-a-vis India, choke India from all sides.
And they still do.
And they still have that strategy. But yet there is a Xi Jinping standing on the dais, giggling with Mr. Modi, with PM Modi. I mean, it's those are pictures and visuals that I don't think we'll forget in a hurry. What's China's game plan?
So I think in the long term, and eventually, I think we may just find out sooner than we expect, that the relationship remains fundamentally a competitive one. It's a competitive relationship. Both the fact that India is the only country in the Indo-Pacific, broader Indo-Pacific, that can challenge China in the kind of scale that we have and in the kind of economic power that we can potentially have. We are already, with all the challenges that we have, we are climbing up the ladder,
But we are far behind.
Yes, but if you are number 3 or number 4 in whichever metrics, then it is a metric that matters. Right? The rest are even further behind. So we are, in some ways, we provide the scale that only we can. I mean, Japan is a very powerful, technologically, economically powerful country. But look, I mean, Japan has not been able to do anything to when it came to Chinese predominance of the region. Suddenly, China is everywhere. We can do that. So for them, therefore, the easiest thing at this point to do is to continue to talk about India as a regional player, continue to build Pakistan in certain capacities. That, look, eventually they don't have to fight us. If they keep on propping Pakistan up, Pakistan will continue to be a nuisance for us and continue to be a problem for us. So that will keep us down. So they have a pyada, as they say, in place. They will keep on using that. They don't have to impose on them costs of fighting India or costs of directly targeting India. And I think most serious people in India do realize that, look, China is a problem country in more ways than one. We can try to see some positives here and there in the short term. If you want economic relationship, if you want to build our manufacturing base, you are reliant on Chinese imports. You really can't do without them. I think often underestimate the ability of others to create problems for us. You know that that here we believed that if only we had Mr. Modi and Xi Jinping talking to each other, we would not have a problem like Galwan. Right? If you remember, after we had this whole Wuhan process,
Yes.
and then Mamlapuram also happened, a lot of optics happened. And I think that in some ways was important because for India, the most important thing is to get that space with China so that we can build our capacity. So there is no harm in reaching out to China and making, shaping their regional architecture in some ways that allows us time to build our capacity. But I think the you know foreign policy is mostly uh, what others do to us rather than what we do to ourselves, because we can plan all we want, but Chinese, for example, had a certain plan for us. They looked at a certain space available to them in Galwan and they pushed it. We reacted, and we reacted well, because we, after 4 long years, we made China realize that the costs of that posture that China has are not sustainable, and therefore China also came on board. And last October we had the disengagement agreement. There cannot be an alignment with China. There can be a tactical adjustment with China. You cannot align because the Chinese ambitions, the way they are looking at the world, they are looking, and the way they look at India is very distinct from how India perceives its own role on the global stage and in the Indo-Pacific.
How do Chinese look at India?
I think Chinese attempt has always been to keep India boxed in as a South Asian player. And they don't look at India as a country that is Indo-Pacific views. And the only time they get worried, also ironical, is that when India and the US come together. So you would recall US India were signing the nuclear deal. They were extraordinarily worried, and they're pushing back against. So they've always been very cautious about it. So in a sense, they're understanding that, look, wherever there is potential of India changing or reconfiguring the global balance of power or the regional balance of power, they get worried. So I would say that be mindful of what China is doing, but exploit the opportunities that you have been given. Because we are now, if we are, we may be far behind, but we are the third or fourth largest economy in the world. The world wants to engage us. So use the global balance of power to your advantage. Chinese have been merciless in this game. You go back to history, they were once partners of the Soviet Union, then America, then this and that. So they move around. And I think India should also leverage this space that is available to India today to ensure that we have equities with all partners.